Live streaming.
Now we're live.
Yes.
Thank you so much. My tech savvy. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you so much, guys, for attending today's session. And once again, today we are all attending this class because we are just language teachers, English language teachers, and we are so eager, we're so willing to maybe work on our language and develop our speaking skill because it's the source of maybe or maybe that's the skill that we use to earn our living, right? So basically every language teacher is always concerned about his language proficiency and of course accuracy, and that's what we're here today to talk about. Thank you so much for joining, first of all. Thank you, Miss Nancy. You're so messed as well. All right, so I've got some familiar names. I know, of course, Miss Nancy, and I'm not really sure, but I guess I know Miss Susie as well. So thank you so much for joining, guys. And let me start. First of all, let me briefly introduce myself. This is Isra Shita. I'm so proud of my family name, so you will find me always using it. So this is Isra Shita, and I've been working in the English language teaching industry for over 8 years. I'm not, I mean, I have actually graduated from Faculty of Education, English department. Basically, teaching was not my passion. I figured that out while I was trying to maybe know what suits me and what doesn't. So I loved teaching after maybe the first year of working as a language teacher, and it became my job and my passion as well. I'm really passionate about what I'm doing, and I feel like I love to share that with other fellow teachers, and I love to share it with my students as well. They need to know that I don't do just my job to pay my bills. I, of course, have got bills to pay, but I enjoy it, and that's another side of maybe of me. I love doing what I do for a living. So I started working in my in teaching. I started working in teaching earlier before I graduated. So I actually started teaching while I was a student in the first year of college, and it's been a nightmare, I believe. So yeah, it's been really difficult for me because I had lots of challenges. I was a very novice teacher. I had no one to support me. I mean, as a language learner and as a language teacher, it's been really difficult. And that somehow inspired me to talk to people today about maybe sort of problems or challenges usually language teachers face. Afterwards, I kept working in the teaching language industry for maybe 4 or 5 years. And then I've got my TOEFL from Ain Shams University as well. And then I finally, alhamdulillah, went the extra mile and I got my CELTA this year from the British Council. After the CELTA, it's been like an opportunity for me to experience classrooms after the CELTA and to know if I can really improve my teaching, style and methods and so on. Afterwards, I worked with other fellow teachers. So I had the chance to observe and I had the chance to attend classrooms where there is like maybe 20 students and there is a teacher using the language to convey a grammar, maybe a rule or a new word. And of course, I have seen lots of things and methods and I would say language that could be good and could be bad, and I wouldn't be very precise about it, but I've been attending classes for maybe 6 months now as a as a teacher trainer. So let's get started. Today, I want to talk to the language teachers about 4 things. And as I said yesterday, last night, today we're going to talk about 4 things. We're going to talk about the struggles that language teachers have. And based on my experience and your experience as well, please feel free to share that. We need to exchange the sort of troubles or problems or hindrance that usually language teachers are skeptical about or suffering from. Okay, so the struggle usually lead to some sort of doubts. Even if you are not 100% novice teacher and you've been doing your job for 10 years, there are some sort of doubts that usually teachers experience. And the bad things that teachers do not have that same safe, comfortable zone where they can express themselves and where they can say, I'm not sure I taught that right. I'm not sure that my accent is correct. I'm not sure that my pronunciation is correct. So the doubts are always there on a teacher's mind, but we are never given the chance to freely talk about them. That's based on my experience as well. So I want to talk about struggles, then doubts, and then we need to talk about the new mindset that we should adopt as language teachers. And finally, the new opportunities. So let's maybe step closer and start talking about the idea of being a non-native teacher of English. Of course, if someone is basically maybe was born and raised in the US, born and raised in the UK, Canada, Australia, these people have got the privilege of being, you know, like some sort of trusted. Whatever they say, whatever they teach is basically trusted. You know, that's been his mother tongue, and he's using this he's using this language for a lifetime. So who's going to doubt the quality of their teaching? Because again, their language is their first. But we as non-native language teachers, we are using English as a second language. And here comes the problem. I asked a couple of teams. I had 2 teams. Every team consisted of maybe 3 to 4 teachers. I asked them to fill in this sentence with their opinions. So this sentence being a non-native teacher of English, and I gave them a space. I told them to fill in the gap. That's so teacher-like. Okay, so to fill in the gap with their thoughts, with their ideas. And let me share with you what they really think. The first one said, well, being a non-native teacher of English is challenging and sometimes stressful. And that makes a lot of sense. It's not your first tongue. So sometimes you struggle getting to know some words in English, and it doesn't have to be common words. You're not living in a native environment. So that's pretty normal. Someone said, is exactly like being a native language teacher. So he thinks that teaching is exactly the same thing. If you're native, non-native, it is the same hectic job. So it doesn't make any difference. Someone said, is quite overwhelming. Nice. And then someone said, it's fun. That's a novice teacher. Okay, he hasn't experienced or he hasn't had the full experience. And the final one said, being a non-native teacher of English has got its challenges, yet it's worth it. So you might agree with these people. You might agree with them. You might disagree with them. And you might have other opinions. But let's say that being a non-native teacher of English, it has got its real challenges. And let's agree on that. When it comes to the language, when it comes to the teaching style, when it comes to the opportunities in the market, of course, you have the native teachers as competitors in the market, and that's completely fine. But we all know that schools prefer always someone who speaks the language as a first tongue, right? So I started thinking of, all right, so that is my job. And that is the thing that I love basically doing. I'm so passionate about it, and I love inspiring new or novice teachers. I love talking to them. I love training them. I love reflecting on my teaching experiences. I love to make the whole process better. So how can we start solving these challenges? So first of all, before we think about the solutions, we need to think of the problems. And I gave them another chance to maybe be more precise and accurate and tell me what are the real challenges as teachers they're facing. They gave me tons of problems related to curriculums, supervision, support, training, language, lots of them. So today, I only shed the light on, or I'm only going to shed the light on the problems or the challenges related to the language. If we are teaching this language, how come we can have sometimes problem with it? Let's talk about that. So someone said, I don't use English all the time in my classes. It is difficult for both of us, my students and me. And that, I guess, everyone in the teaching field has come across someone who's somehow not able to teach in English. It is quite difficult for them because maybe it's from their side, from the teacher's side, or from the student's side. The students cannot understand, or the teacher can't really fill in or maybe complete conveying a whole maybe a grammar structure in English. Someone said, I communicate with my students in English, so nice. However, I use very simple words and structures. Nice. This made me lose my language and limited my lexical resources. And the person who said that, she's a lady, she's graduated from Faculty of Elson, and she's been a workmate for a couple of years. So I know her language. Her language is awesome. Her language is good. She can communicate very well, and she's been working with native people. So I know her language register is awesome, is incredibly beautiful. But the things that she starts complaining about, the fact that she's losing, or somehow the language is decaying, so she's losing it somehow. And that's, again, a very normal result because teachers keep doing language customization. They simplify the language. The more you simplify it, the more you lose it. And someone else said, starting and developing a conversation in English is something I still need to improve. So I only stand up in class, or maybe I start my class, I give some sort of orders, instructions that they need to follow, but I do not have a conversation with my students. Even if my students have a full conversation or the language is awesome, they can communicate fully with their English, I am not really able to do that. I have tons of pauses, so the fluency is not the best. Someone said, I doubt my pronunciation, my word choice, and even my fluency. Okay, and let's face it, and let's feel, maybe embrace that we do sometimes have this problem, and it's completely fine. We're not native speakers, we're not native language users. We are non-native language users, and we have tried so long to acquire the language, and we had this level. So sometimes we are unaware of the pronunciation of that word, and we need to get back to the dictionary and double check. My word choice, my fluency, I mean the pauses and how I can develop the ideas, how can I keep going. So another teacher said, the more I simplify my language, especially if you're teaching lower grades, kindergarten and grade 1, 2, you cannot use, very complicated, complex structures and very advanced words. You will never have the luxury of doing that. Even if you're teaching native kids, you will not be able to do that. So the more I simplify my language, the more I lose all the advanced grammar structures. I know them. I can teach them. Like I can teach passive voice reported speech. I can teach the if conditionals, second and third, but I do not use them in my speech. I do not use them in my conversation. And as far as I can remember, that teacher was applying for IELTS test. And if you maybe guys are familiar with IELTS, it's essential to use advanced grammar structure. It is very important to get a good high band or good band score. So she was complaining that somehow her profession, her job, is ruining her future dreams. Teaching in English is okay for me. The real challenge is that I can't talk to my workmates in English. Okay, that's another thing. I feel hesitant and shy. So someone who doesn't really have any struggles when it comes to English is completely fine, but it's some sort of negative emotions related to speaking English in front of people that we know they can somehow assess, evaluate us, like peers or maybe supervisors. And it happens a lot if you have a meeting with your teachers or the teachers on the team, a meeting with your supervisor. That happens all the time. You must be speaking in English. And that reminds me of another teacher that I was teaching maybe a couple of months ago. She told me that she was so eligible for applying for the vacancy of being a supervisor. She was a teacher and she wanted to get promoted, but she wasn't able to ask for it or even to apply for it because she was hesitant about her English. What if I need to give a presentation now to the teachers on the team? So you again can have similar experiences like these, and you can have other problems or struggles. But again, we are now spotting the struggles, and we are just maybe developing that part of it's fine for teachers to struggle, and that's where we should start development. So these are the struggles. Basically, struggles are very negative because if you haven't acted towards these struggles, if you haven't done anything towards that, if you have just kept suffering from this problem, whether it's lack of communication skills, lack of vocabulary, inconfidence, if you just keep that, you will never move forward. You will never take a step forward. You will never feel that I am confident. I am never maybe hesitant about my language when I have a class observation or when I have a meeting with other teachers. So this will definitely lead to doubts. And here I came to that sentence that we should all be aware of, read it aloud and believe in it. Being a teacher of English does not really mean you are an excellent language user. You can be, but it doesn't mean. Or even you don't have to work on your language, because there is a huge misconception. You're a language teacher, so your English must be perfect. Your English must be great. That's just an expectation of the other people. This holds somehow the other teachers back. This holds them back. If you need to improve, but I'm a language teacher, I can teach it, so I'm a good language user. Until there is a situation where you experience your real communication skills and you find that it's not the best. So you need now to work on it. So we don't have to face these sort of situations. We don't have to wait for the moment where we're told that our English needs to be worked on. Let's first of all state it very clearly. Teachers of English sometimes need to work on their language, and that's for the sake of their future, for the sake of their current career, for the sake of their students. It's a responsibility, and of course, it is very essential. Okay, so why do we doubt? That's what I've been talking about. But why basically teachers of English can teach grammar, can teach vocabulary. They know what are the different accents and how to pronounce different words in a very correct way. But they can't hold a conversation, complete conversation, or they cannot have a phone call in English, and they cannot feel very comfortable. Why? Why do they struggle? Because learning all about grammar and vocabulary and pronunciation is on one side, and communication is on another side. So communication is a different context. Communication is vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, functional language, practice, all at one, side, all at one practice. So if you are just maybe aware of grammar, that doesn't make you a good language user. And that's what I say to my students, even if they're not teachers. Knowing all about grammar and vocabulary and pronunciation will never make you a good language learner. You've got to practice, and everyone knows that. It goes the same for teachers, no wonder. Second thing is that teachers somehow are overwhelmed with high expectations. Everyone expects that you're the best. That's why you forget that you need to get back to the learner's seat. So you need to leave the board, you need to leave where you stand up every morning, and you just need to get back to the student's seat and sit down, learn. That is sometimes maybe could be overloading or overwhelming or stressing, or it could be something that many teachers never think about, but why not? All right. So if we are maybe now on the same page that teachers have got lots of struggles, not all of them, of course, I'm not generalizing, I'm just talking about maybe some teachers or novice teachers or even experienced teacher, but we need to work on our language. So the struggles led to doubt, and then what's next? So we are on the same page right now. Now let's move